What? Why am I so small? There it goes. All right, I'm back. All right, guys, welcome to the chat today. We have a crazy storm here in Hawaii. So if suddenly I disappear, we might have lost power. So just know that there's a lot of things going on that I want to talk about today. A few things going on with crypto, obviously, and the larger problem with what's going on in the Middle East. There's a lot of new information, and that's definitely going to impact the market. And I want to take a look at that information with you, answer some questions, and just go through it. I wasn't able to make my kind of update that I do. I've done every day this week on what's going on, with the war and stuff like that. And I want to throw some of those updates in this live event so people can at least get that daily update. We did see some interesting prices here, like crypto has been. You know what? Let me just say hello to everyone in the chat here. What's going on? Peter O'Neill's here first. What's up, Peter? How's it going? Good morning from Australia. Always great to see you, Peter. Man, I really need to get out to Australia, man. There's a lot of you guys from Australia, and I can't wait to visit one day. What's up, Christopher? Great to see you, my man. This will be a good stream. Excited about the partnership. Stay patient, XRP fam. Man, there's a lot of, like that MasterCard thing. That was a pretty big deal. We're going to talk a little bit about that too. Sveta, great to see you, man. I hope you're doing well. Always brings a smile to my face when I see you. Vatican, great to see you, man. How's it going? Jordan's here. Great to see you. Fred, what's up, Fred? Wayne, what's up, Wayne? Sensei, I hope you're doing well. By the way, I purchased some H-bar. I dip my toes in the Canton also, still steady, adding XRP every day. Every chance I get at the price, I'm in it to win it. Wayne Smith, man, I love to see it. As we talk more about, what's really going to impact the market, assets that, have a use case, they have institutional development, that have real partnerships. I mean, that's the whole reason we do these chats, right? So we can engage with the community. We can understand what people are bullish on. We can have those conversations. And I'm really excited, man. I bought a few $1,000s of H-bar this week too. And it's so nice, man. You put in $1,000 and boom, you get, over 10,000 H-bar back. And so I've been building my bag of H-bar, $1,000 here, $2,000 there. I don't really know what I want to build it into quite yet, but it's starting to turn into something. And I'm really proud about that. I'm glad to hear that you're adding some stuff too. Chipper, man, great to see you. I hope you're well. Chipper, Ariana had brought up to me that you sent me a message on X. I get literally dozens of messages a day, and I don't know what your X is. Can you just email me or come? The easiest way to get a hold of me is come into Cryptonaires. You come into Cryptonaires, and I'll be there. We were going to do a chat inside the community today, but I didn't sleep at all last night. We had this huge storm. Wind was hitting the windows, and Luna was panicking all night. And so my wife didn't get much sleep, which means I didn't get much sleep. And then the fire alarm went off at 3:30 in the morning, and then it went off again at 4:15. So crazy night for me. And so if I'm a little kind of tired, that's because we just, the storm here is insane. Great to see you. We got Robert Pellegrino's here. What's up, Robert? Nice to see you, man. We have Just Saying 24/7. Aloha. It's rainy today. Yeah, that's an understatement. I think this is the most rain that I've seen in the last few years. I mean, I'm trying to remember other storms that we've had that were this bad. I mean, it's blowing out there, man. Rusty checking in from Australia. Great to see you, Rusty. We have a good amount of people from Australia coming on. All right, guys, do me a favor. If you're watching on X, everyone seems to be here on YouTube, which is really strange. If you're watching on X, and if you could reshare the stream, that would be awesome. If you can like the stream here on YouTube, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. All right, so here, let's take a look at crypto prices here. Let's refresh this. Look, Bitcoin's over 70,000. That's pretty strong. Up 3.87%. You have people like Tom Lee saying that March could be an up month for crypto. Obviously, there is tension, in global stock markets. I mean, South Korea, Japan, pretty much all over Asia, any country that relies on the Strait of Hormuz to get oil is hurting right now. And so, you've seen some of that capital now flowing into the crypto market here. We've seen a little bit of change. The market cap currently is 2.42 trillion. If we take a look here, as you can see, right, we were looks like about 200 billion, maybe a little bit more than that. So, money is flowing, which is good. We just hopefully that we can keep this up. XRP is at 139. Let's take a look here. Solana is at $88. Cardano's at 26. Hyper liquid, man. Oh man, that thing just keeps going. I mean, if you talk about utility in the crypto space, hyper liquid, I'd imagine this will be 100 billion one day. Down the line here, as the derivatives market is still very important. Canton Network here at 15 cents, 5.7 billion. Stellar at 16 cents. Litecoin at 55. Avalanche under $10, and then HBAR at 9.4 cents. Man, sign me up for more HBAR at 9.4 cents. Seriously. Just to round out, you got Ondo here at 26 cents. Love to see that. You haven't heard too much. Look at this render. Render's up 31% in the last 7 days. That's really interesting to see render up so much here. Even Trump coin is making a comeback. I guess there was a new thing about, if you own enough Trump coin, you can come to another meeting at the White House or something, or meet Trump. And so that's why you're seeing it pump 24%. I mean, people really didn't learn the first time. And so here we go for the second time. And then just to kind of round out the top 100, Layer Zeros here's up at 5.7%. You got Pudgy Penguins up 6%. EtherFi up 4% at 55 cents, $411 million market cap. And all right. Now, what we were, what the thumbnail on the stream was about the MasterCard program. Now, MasterCard has been dipping their toes into digital assets for quite a long time. They've been working with Ripple for quite a long time. And so they put this out. Digital assets are entering a new phase. What once ran in parallel to existing financial system is increasingly being applied to solve practical real-world needs, often behind the scenes, from cross-border remittances to BNB money transfers. This creates new opportunities to add value and how money moves globally. Today, we introduced the MasterCard crypto program, a global initiative that brings together more than 85 crypto companies. And so you got payment providers, financial institutions, and all kinds of people involved here. And of course, Binance, Circle, Ripple, Gemini, PayPal, just to name a few. I did see Cross River Bank here, and WebBank as well is connected in this group. And so you just love to see it. This initiative targets cross-border transfers, business-to-business payments, global payments, global payouts, and linking on-chain tools to MasterCard's existing rails of 200 countries. So that's really great to see. You also got some information about BlackRock maybe looking at other altcoins for an iShares ETF.
Market share. And so that's where overwhelmingly the interest we see is, but we do see pockets of interest in some of the other assets as well. And we continue to evaluate those as conditions evolved and as maturity, liquidity, scale, and use cases develop. But we take a very discerning approach in terms of what we would put in an iShares ETF. Market share. All right. And so that's where we continue to,
the most important part is here,
evaluate those as conditions evolved and as maturity, liquidity, scale, and use cases develop. But
maturity, liquidity, scale, and as use cases develop. So if you look, it's going to be XRP or Solana. I'd imagine both of those will be BlackRock, iShares anytime soon here. I mean, you need deep liquidity, and so they're not going to do that with something that doesn't have close to $100 billion market cap. And I just imagine those are the two. Also, it wouldn't be surprised me if Chainlink is eventually one of those companies or crypto assets that they add to iShares, as well as maybe even something like Litecoin could eventually be in there as well. And then we did hear that BlackRock was tokenizing all of their iShares ETFs over the next 3 to 12 months. That was a pretty big announcement. We went over that maybe Monday or late last week when I saw the clip. And so globally, that's about 5.5 trillion, I think. In the United States, it's about $3.6 trillion worth of assets going to get tokenized. So that is pretty cool to see. And let me show you a few other things here. It does look like Bitcoin's trading volume is up 40%. The crypto market is seeing a surge in trading activity over the last 24 hours. Bitcoin volume up 40%. Ethereum is up 42%. XRP volume is up 38%. Sui up 43%. Man, it's really rough what happened to Sui, man. Sui was doing so good, and then 1010 happened, and it just went down so freaking hard. Now, I do want to shift here and just give you a little bit of information. It doesn't matter like where you are on the planet. Obviously, what's going on in the Middle East is going to affect you. It's going to affect every economy. It already started. It already has started to, and we've seen just a lot of crazy things happen. So let me just update you the best of my ability. In the United States, in the last, well, it says in the past month. So I think this is mainly in March here, down 2 trillion. That's a lot of money. Obviously, if there's a solution in the Middle East, like that could rebound pretty quickly. But unfortunately, I don't think there's a solution anytime soon. Let me just show you some data here. Oil is surging to $100 a barrel. It's creeped over this, it's come back and it's creeped over this. I mean, remember the when it dipped here, it was going up. It was even higher than this, right? It was at, oil was getting to a point where it was $110, $115 a barrel. Trump came out and said, we're almost done in the Middle East. Everything's going to be okay. And oil kind of, came down. Also, there was over 570 million barrels of oil that was released from reserves from the United States and G7 countries. I think the United States released something like the oil reserve in the United States was 3/4 full. So they didn't really fill it up before the war started, which means they didn't think that it was going to impact oil, or they didn't think that they were going to have to dip into the reserves. I don't know how you missed that, but the U.S. did not fill up the oil reserves in the United States. And so we didn't start this, whole thing with a full reserve. And so they did release, I believe, 170 million barrels. I got to get the exact number there. And you are seeing a lot of oil now trying to kind of be pumped into the market to cool prices. It'll only last so long. And we just saw this, like this is just announced, at 1:11 p.m. This is an hour ago. So this is brand new, hot off the press. What happened to Iran's Karg Island? President Trump said that the U.S. carried out the most powerful bombing raids in Middle East history on Karg Island. It's a major escalation for oil markets. Here's why. Karg Island, and I do apologize if I'm not saying that right, has been described as the crown jewel of Iran's oil industry. It is vital. Tiny island in the northern Persian Gulf that manages 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. Karg Island alone handles 2% of global oil supply. In the lead up to the war, Iran was exporting as much as 3 million barrels of oil per day at Karg Island. Trump said that the U.S. military has chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on that island for now. However, President Trump also said that he will consider this decision should Iran do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships in the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran is clearly doing right now. In other words, President Trump appears to be paving the way for the destruction of this oil infrastructure on the world's most crucial oil ports on this island. So here is the issue. How do we talk about this? The issue here is you can end the war today, right? And it really depends on how much infrastructure you blow up, right? Because that is not something that can be easily replaced. Think of something, think of like a house, right? You've all seen the movies where, you're sitting outside of a house in a movie and all of a sudden the house blows up, like there's a gas line blow or something like that. And the house is blown to smithereens, right? So you have to hire a company to come and rebuild. You have to draw up plans. You have to get equipment there. You have to build it up. And then you can start, filling it back up with oil or processing that. That could take months or years, depending on how big of a thing that you're blowing up is. And when we go to blow up something that is emergency alert, National Weather Service, a flash flood warning. Okay, sorry. We have a really bad storm here. When you go to blow up key infrastructure like this, the problem is if the U.S. blows up Iran's infrastructure, Iran can basically launch a drone from anywhere in their country and blow up ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, they have a 2,500 kilometer range on a lot of their drones. They also have sea drones. Okay. And so if you're wondering kind of like how sea drones work, if you want to go on X and look up Ukraine, that's what Ukraine did to Russia in the Black Sea. They built these like they're called like baby sea drones or whatever. They're actually like they're pretty big, and they ran them into the side of ships and they blow the ships up, right? And so Iran has similar technology, and that's going to be a real problem. So if we're going tit for tat, blowing up infrastructure, you can expect Iran to start targeting more infrastructure in the Middle East. And once you blow up all this infrastructure, you really are kind of lighting a stick of dynamite to the world's economy. I don't know why we think this is a good idea, but that is what is being done right now. It's kind of crazy, but this is where we are. And then obviously, if the oil's over $95 a barrel, which it is now, inflation is going to be over 3.2%. This was at 2.4%. Obviously, this is going to keep ticking up. If oil gets to $150 a barrel, this will be over 4.4%. So gas prices are up. Everything that you buy is going to go up, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And so here you go. President Trump said that the war is ending very soon, and the IAE just released 572 million barrels of oil reserves. And then why are oil prices nearing $100 a barrel again? In the lead up to Sunday night's historic $30 rally in prices and oil prices to $120 a barrel, uncertainty was at record highs. The reason behind this rally was largely that President Trump was not signaling how long the Iran conflict would last. Since then, the only factor that has changed is that President Trump said that the war will be over pretty quickly, and that's when you got the drop in oil. However, this also implies that military action is likely to continue until at least the end of March. So they're going to keep blowing stuff up until the end of March at least. I also saw some stuff that a Marine troop is heading to the Gulf there. About 2,500 troops that are troops that you would land, in Iran, like a ground invasion, which obviously, that would be catastrophic. Meanwhile, Iran calls for oil prices to rise above $200. So Iran says, they've been putting out messages publicly that they are going to force oil to over $200 a barrel. On the top of this, restarting oil production in the Gulf is not simple. Restoring it is now expected to take months. So regardless of what happens, like even if you stop the fighting, even if you could get Iran to accept whatever it is that you want them to accept, reparations, whatever, US paying them billions of dollars for blowing up all their stuff, and they say, okay, we're fine. It would still take months to get everything back up and running. And so we're not at that point yet. So you can imagine that this could go into next year, obviously, with this infrastructure down. Iran war was officially causing the largest disruption in oil in history. So now you can add that to things that we've accomplished here in 2026, making history for obviously not the right reasons. Gulf producers have cut oil production by 10 million barrels a day. The Iran war has driven production to the lowest level in 4 years. The IAE expects world output to fall by 8 million barrels a day. This represents a decline of 7% of the 107 million barrels a day, but you still cannot get through about 20 million barrels. This is where most of the oil comes from. I thought this was a helpful visual. So you can see here, the Strait of Hormuz, about 20 million barrels a day. That's what's kind of stuck right now. It can't move. You are seeing the Suez Canal here, about 5 million barrels. You have the Dab el Mandib at 4.2 million. And then the Strait of Malacca is responsible for 23.2 million barrels. So this is the second largest here. And then as you can see here, destination of Hormuz exports, Asia is 89%. And so other is 4%, US is 3%, and then Europe is 4%. So, oh shoot, sorry. My bad. I do apologize. I see I didn't click on the visual. So let me just show you this again. Here is the Strait of Hormuz. This is 20 million barrels. This is the Suez Canal. Here is the Del Alamal. I can't say that. I do apologize. And then here's the Strait of Malacca. So 23 million. This is 20 million. And then this is where the distribution of the oil is. Most of it's Asia. And then you have other, and then US. All right. Let me just show you some more stuff here because it doesn't get better. Following the G7 call, France's President Macron said, no one can tell what Donald Trump wants from this war. I think this is the hardest part. Trump hasn't really been open on what the U.S. goals are for the war. So you can't really say we are 90% to this goal. We are 80% to this goal. Nobody knows where the stop is. And so that's the hard part is when you don't know what your goals you're trying to reach, things are just going to continue. And as we're blowing up key infrastructure, obviously it's not going to be good for anybody. U.S. and Israel have not secured the 450 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. Now, Russia has stepped in and said that they would transport this 450 kilograms of highly enriched uranium to Russia as part of trying to bring a peace to stop the fighting. If that's what this is about, the U.S. did decline that to happen. U.S. and Israel reportedly do not entirely agree on what winning looks like. And so here is the biggest problem. Now that you open the box, Israel is not going to stop. U.S. can say we're done here. We're not going to help out anymore. Israel is not going to say that we're done, right? And so now you have countries that have been at each other for decades, maybe even longer than that. I don't really know the history. I do apologize, but the U.S. is not the only decision maker here, and I think this is going to be a bigger problem than we maybe didn't think. I don't know. I don't know what these people are doing, what the thought process is, but obviously some of this stuff was not well thought out. We don't want to leave early, do we? We got to finish the job right, Trump said. Great. Now, here is where it gets very zesty. France and Italy opened direct talks with Iran over the Hormuz Pass. France and Italy have initiated diplomatic talks with Iran for safe and secure passage through the Strait of Hormuz. So this could be a big break in NATO, right? The U.S. and its allies, obviously France is a part of that, but France and Italy now are trying to come up with their own deal so their ships are not targeted and their economies do not suffer as bad as everyone else's economies are going to suffer. So you are starting to see some diplomacy happen behind the scenes, and it's really interesting to see how this plays out. The move comes as geopolitical tensions in the region continue to escalate. European powers are now moving independently to protect their critical shipping lanes. So this is causing the U.S., where we used to have these allies that we could rely on, we do a lot of business with. Now there's a crack in that fissure, and countries are going their separate ways. This is also a larger problem with, the U.S. The EU is one of the U.S.'s largest trading partners. I believe it is one of the largest trading partners. And this is obviously going to cause tension on that deal to break down. And this is going to hurt U.S. businesses, obviously, on a massive scale. And then you also have this. U.S. intelligence says Iran's leadership is still largely intact and it's not on the risk of collapse. A multitude of intelligence reports provide consistent analysis that the regime is not in danger of a collapse. Intelligence also suggests that the Iranian government retains control of the Iranian public. And then Israeli officials in closed discussions have acknowledged that there is no certainty the war will lead to the Iranian government's collapse. So if we did this to try to collapse the government, the people take over, that's not going to happen. The situation on the ground is being described as fluid, which means it is changing every hour, every second. And then U.S. officials said Iran did lay mines in the Strait of Hormuz. This was a few days ago. Then the U.S. kind of said, oh, there wasn't mines. But then, they said the next day that the mines were being described as the most destructive weapons that the U.S. Navy has ever faced. Trump said that he wants shipping companies, oil companies to use the Strait of Hormuz, even though that those ships are being targeted. And the companies did ask for the U.S. Navy to give them safe passage, and the U.S. Navy said no. Now, Russia is now one of the biggest winners out of this. Russia is now making $150 million per day in oil sales. The United States did lift sanctions off of Russia oil, which, whatever. The Russian government is set to receive $5 billion in extra revenue. So the Russian economy was in a really bad state. A lot of their companies, state-run companies, state-owned companies were going bankrupt due to the war with Ukraine. And this is really giving Russia a lifeline now of $5 billion additional in revenue, thanks to the United States. Now, here is something that, I watch a lot of these videos, and some of them, I don't think they're worth your time. And some of them, you're hearing different perspectives, you're hearing different things that could play out and happen. And I felt it was important to at least share this with you, because this could be a real possibility of what we're all looking forward to here over the next few weeks.
I would say the following. First of all, if you need medication of any kind, you better go out and buy all the medicines you can get, because in a few months they won't be available, because the petroleum industry has a big role to play in the production of pharmaceuticals. So that's my first piece of advice. And secondly, start thinking in terms of storing food and any other items that you think you may need, because as this war continues, and it's going to continue, the impact that I talked about earlier is going to be felt here. There is no evidence that anybody in Tehran is going to pop up on the phone, call President Trump and say, oh, we're so sorry, we surrender, we'll do whatever the Israelis want us to do, because that's really what it's all about. Now, we have other interests. We think we're harming China. I don't know what the Chinese will do, but I think the Chinese over the next few weeks, they're going to surprise everybody by what they may be willing to do. I don't know if the Chinese will fly some aircraft into the airspace over Iran and essentially tell us, look, we've had enough, stop, or we'll go to war. Maybe the Russians will do something similar. Who knows? There are any number of things that they could do to signal, that's it, we've had it. But in the meantime, I think you just need to prepare for the worst here. And once the stock market figures out, or the investors, the people in New York that run the financial system, who are largely part of the problem for us, they're going to say, oh my God, and you're going to watch the stock market tank, and you're going to watch the cost of a barrel of oil go up to 200 and potentially all the way to 3.
Now, what's interesting here, he did say something about the stock market. You are seeing retail investors buying the dip while institutions are looking for the exit. I think, retail really isn't pricing in how bad this could be. And, if you are trading stocks, you're buying stocks right now, you're doubling down, you might just want to do some extra due diligence to understand the full situation of what this could be. If this continues like this, markets, I would imagine, will be affected in the negative way. But that's something that you need to talk with your financial advisor on.
And all of that is going to bring everything inside the United States to a screeching halt. Now, right now, President Trump is betting, based upon what he's hearing from General Kane and others, that with enough explosives, we can win this thing. And what's the win for us? The win is Iran cries uncle. We're surrendering. You can have what you want. We've taken all that we can. We'll do what the Israelis say. I just don't see that happening, Dan.
All right. Now, there was this. This is what oil it actually affects. If you're not familiar, this is a good visual. So you have oil and gas, and so you have all of these feedstocks that are created. You have basic chemicals that are created. You have chemical intermediaries, derivatives of those chemicals. You have final products, which are soap and detergent, synthetic fibers, plastics, adhesive, dyes, foams, resins, explosives, synthetic rubber, paint and coatings. And then you have industrial chemicals. And so you have clothing, packaging, appliances, vehicle, machinery, electronics, office and industrial supply, pharmaceuticals, consumer products, building materials, furniture, healthcare, and airspace, all affected by oil. Let me just play this.
Oil and gas go up in price. Well, then you can expect that's going to affect other markets like feedstock, basic chemicals, chemical intermediates, and then final products, which is going to be things like, explosives, resins, foams, dyes, adhesives, plastics, and then, of course, end use, clothing, packaging, appliances, vehicle machinery, electronics, pretty much everything, consumer products, food, airspace, healthcare. The whole supply chain is completely affected by the oil price remaining higher for longer.
Okay.
Oil and gas go up in price.
All right. There's a bunch more here that I need to show you here. And so I also saw this. I thought this was interesting. I haven't heard too many people talking about this, but Iran issues evacuation orders for U.S. companies, including Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, and Oracle. That is why some of these companies' stocks are dumping here. Iran has issued threats and evacuation orders for American technology companies operating in West Asia, warning that their offices, data centers, and critical infrastructure could become potential targets. You have, with the escalating conflicts, the companies specifically include IBM, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Cisco Systems, Palo Alto Networks, Oracle, Salesforce, Adobe, Qualcomm, Dell Technologies, and Intel, as well as Apple. So, yeah, that's crazy because they have offices and cloud platforms in the UAE and Israel. Microsoft has data centers and corporate hubs. Amazon has cloud operations and data centers. Cisco has networking and security infrastructure in Israeli Gulf states. Palo Alto Networks has cybersecurity operations in the UAE and Israel. Oracle has enterprise software and cloud services in the UAE. Salesforce has CRM and cloud offices in the UAE and Israel. Adobe has digital solutions and offices in the UAE and Israel. Qualcomm has technology. You get the point, right? They're going to target these companies inside the Gulf states. All right. And then we just got this update here. I was just going through my feed. And so just 2 hours after markets closed, President Trump is threatening that stuff. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, Iran's Karg Island, which is 2% of global supply. And so this might look differently tomorrow. If he does, in fact, target this, expect oil prices to really, really explode. I'd imagine if you take 2% of oil infrastructure and then the retaliation, whether they're going to bomb more tankers or whether they're going to target actual oil infrastructure in the Gulf, if you start taking off 2% here, 3% there, 4% here, soon you're going to have 20% of oil now taken offline for the next 6 to 12 months at least. Now, here is, what is this guy's name? Pete Hegseth. He works at the Department of, guess it's called Department of War now, right? Not Department of Defense. Let me play it.
Yeah, right here. You have said that the U.S. military has essentially aerial superiority, naval superiority over Iran, yet we're not escorting ships to the Strait of Hormuz. Why? How did you not plan for this?
We planned for it. We recognize it. Because ultimately we want to do it sequentially in a way that makes the most sense for what we want to achieve and ensure that we're sending the right signals to the world when we do so.
They planned for it, but they didn't refuel the oil reserves before it happened. They obviously didn't plan for it. They didn't think it was going to get like this.
So when Chris Wright speaks or we speak, it's based on a full assessment of what we're up against, what we want to say to the world, how that we want them to see and understand the conflict. It's like this whole idea of the war widening. That's what the press wants to make it look like it's widening and chaos is ensuing. No, we're actually closing in on grabbing hold of and controlling what objectives we want to achieve and how we want to achieve them. It's called shaping operations and setting the conditions. But when you shape the environment, you don't always tell. I mean, foolish political leaders and foolish military leaders of the past will hang an exact deadline on it. Or here's exactly when we'll do what we're going to do. Or here's how long it's going to take us. And then if you meet that, maybe you meet it. But if you don't, you fail. And if you're far beyond, we know exactly what we're shaping and why. We're sending those signals working across the interagency. The Strait of Hormuz is something we've paid attention to from the beginning. And the American people can rest assured we will ensure that our interests are advanced.
Okie dokie. And then there's also this clip here, 7 seconds.
The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that.
It's open for shipping as long as Iran does not shoot at ships. Got it. All right. That is super helpful. You know what? Let's take some questions here because I know I've gone through a lot of information and some of that information you might have questions about. So I mean, you probably shouldn't have hired a Fox News person to run the Department of Defense, but that's where we are. So I don't know. I'm speechless when I look at some of this stuff. Like it's absolutely I don't think they have a clue. I really don't. And yes, maybe you are achieving some objectives and maybe you are blowing up some really bad people, but you're also blowing up a lot of regular people. And there's no end in sight here, guys. Like expect $150 barrel of oil at least. You might be looking at like $200 a barrel for oil. There is no coming back and stopping it at this point. Like you've crossed over that point of no return. And the disruptions already happened, right? You already have 2 weeks of nothing moving, right? And so that 2 weeks, like even if you restarted it today, let's say you could do that in a magical world that is like an alternate universe that you could get that thing going again. You still have those few weeks of disruption, which is going to just devastate supply chains, right? All right. They did. I think they did kill the top guy. Yes. The son looks like he's in charge now, but they've only heard like They've only seen like written statements that were announced on the news from the son taking over. And so I don't know if he's really alive, but he's probably trying to what's it called? The Mo, you know. What's up, Mo? Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I don't know if he's alive, man. I just seen reports of that's who's in control now. Maybe I should be the secretary. I am not qualified. I am not anywhere. You need like somebody that's been like a general or somebody that, you know, is actual good at war planning. I mean, I don't know. It probably not the right person for that job. But BB, oh yes, Netanyahu. You're talking about Netanyahu. Sorry, BB. You know, I'm not. I'm a cryptosensei. I'm not, you know, Middle East, you know, Middle East reporter guy. You know, so I'm learning all of this stuff as I go through it with you. You know, it's not something that I thought I'd be talking about right now in this point of time. And it's difficult, man. It is difficult to read through all of these things and listen to all of these videos. And I can tell you there's a lot of people that are upset. And there's a lot of people that are unsure of what's going to happen. And I don't know how that's going to translate to what we're trying to do here in this country, at least, right? I know there was somebody here, I think it was on Tuesday, that was from the UK. And he was saying that, you know, basically a gallon of gas, and I know you guys do it differently there. They said like a gallon of gas is like $9 already in the UK. So you can imagine if that were to go up 25% or 50%, you know, could you imagine paying like 13 or 15 bucks a gallon for gas? That's kind of where we're heading here. And kind of crazy, man. We're going to prevail always. Yeah. You know, Mike, that's, you know, but what does that look like though? Like what does a win look like to you, Mike? Right? I think that's the hard part that we're all trying to figure out. Right? Remove awful people, right? Absolutely. Get that. But how much damage are we actually doing now to the global economy? Like we're trying to take out a few hundred really bad people, but we're going to make billions of people suffer to do that. That's kind of like what is it, the thing where like, you know, if you could cure cancer, but you had to, you know, do something completely awful to do that. Like, you know, I don't want to say it, right? Because, you know, I don't want to get banned or something saying something weird on YouTube, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's just hard, man. It's going to be real bad. It's going to be a bloodbath. I haven't seen anything in this in my lifetime. I mean, I cannot think back to a time that I was like, oh man, like this is like bad. And there is no end in sight. So Israel needs to stay in its own lane. Hey, probably, but they did talk Trump into doing this, right? So we're here now, and we're just gonna have to deal with it, you know. But it's crazy though. Like, you know, I got an electric car, so yes, that'll be a little bit more expensive, and I don't drive that much, right? But I know a lot of people like drive 50 miles, right, or 100 miles a day, right? That is how they earn a living. Right. And if you can imagine that that's going to be 50% more expensive, there's a lot of people that are not going to be able to handle that additional money. Right. And so, you know, I think I'm just like a softie when I think about some of that pain that it's going to cause people. And I just don't really know how to process that myself, you know. And my wife always says I'm very emotional, and she's probably right, you know. She's probably right. Mike, you're in Vegas. I think I'm going to be going to Vegas for XRP Las Vegas. You know, I've received like a bunch of different companies that want to meet me in Vegas, and I really want to meet some of you guys, and I really want to meet Brad Garlinghouse. So I might just hop on a plane and you know, come see y'all. Let's see here. Lizard, great to see you, man. How's it going? It says UK runs Iran war after war after war. It's the UK, man. I don't know who it is, man. You know, and there might be some truth to that. You obviously probably know a lot more about this than I do. I'm just in like sticker shock, man. You know, like when you go to a car dealership and you see a really nice car on the showroom floor, and you're like, man, you know, that like I could be driving that, and then you go up and you see the sticker, and you're like, you know, you do one of those, like, you know, I can't afford this, right? And so I think I'm just having some sticker shock right now. And Christopher says he's gonna meet me there. All right, man. I think, you know, it feels like a lot of you guys are going. I'm surprised they haven't sold out the tickets yet. Isn't that crazy? Empathy can easily become toxic. You're right, man. You're absolutely right. I think no matter what you look at it these days, like, I think we're just trying to go through the facts here. And, you know, obviously when I share my personal opinions on this stuff, some of you are here for that, and some of you maybe not cared to hear it. And I get it, right? But you guys all come to this channel to get news and information, right? And all of these things are going to affect the crypto market. They're going to affect the stock market. They're going to affect the, you know, your everyday life. And I think it's really important that you at least have this information, right? And that's kind of why we're doing it. Hopefully silver and crypto boom. OSOK, I've been seeing you in the Discord a lot. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we're starting to, you know, build a good following inside of Cryptonaires. You know, it is free and open right now. We're going to be working with some of our partners to bring in some special offers, and we are going to try to do that launch next week. And so I would love to invite you guys in. There is a link if you know how to use Discord. I mean, OSOK doesn't know how to use Discord. He's just learning, but it's really nice to spend time with you guys in there. I'm sharing news kind of during the day, and we're kind of talking and chatting in there. And so if you just want to, you know, be a part of a community, and you know, love to see you there, man. New Wolf says Elon states better be optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right. I'm sure things will be fine. I hope so. I hope so, man. But you know, like, I feel like if we could have like slowed down a bit on bombing the infrastructure part, like, it would have been fine. The one thing I'm worried about that I don't hear anybody else mentioning is the water distillation infrastructure. A lot of those, you know, Gulf states get water through water distillation. Did you guys see that news? Hold on. I put it into one of my videos. I put it in one of my videos recently. Hold on. Let me just let me show you this, because it's kind of crazy. And I really hope this doesn't happen. Do I have the video saved anywhere? Hold on, let me see if it's in my bookmarks. No, it's not. Of course it's not. Shoot. Man, of course I didn't save the one thing I wanted to save here. I mean, this is kind of information on it though. Hold on. Here. Let me just show you what I'm doing here. So here's kind of information on it. Water war in the Middle East. Distillation plants are now under direct attack. This could be more dangerous than hitting the oil facilities. U.S., according to Iran, struck a plant on Qasem Island on the Strait of Hormuz and cut water to 30 plus villages. Iran hit back with a drone on a plant in Bahrain. And so they're now bombing each other's infrastructure. There's actually a much better visual here of this, but I need to find it for you. Let me see if I can find it for you guys. Hold on. Because like the oil is one thing. Yes, here it is. Okay, sorry. Okay, so here is the dependence on seawater distillation for drinking. So you got Kuwait, you got Oman, you got Israel, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and then Iran. Check this out. Okay, so here's Iran, right? And here's the Persian Gulf. So Iranian drones, they can fly 2,500 kilometers. Okay, they can launch them off the backs of trucks. They can launch them from stationary pods. I mean, they really can kind of take them out of a house and get them going. Right? They pre-program where they're going. That way, they can't be jammed, and they just send them. And so what you're seeing on screen here is all of the water distillation plants that are going to be within range of the drones. Okay, so if you target any of these distillation centers, you could knock out water for the entire region. And I think we all kind of know what happens when people don't have drinking water. You can't live. And so that would be very scary. Curtis says, Sensei, in the UK, it's about $8, $8.50 per gallon. However, we've had high prices since COVID before the war started. That's kind of crazy, man. Like in the US, we had high prices during COVID, and then they came down, right? Over the last, 4 or 5 years, they came down. But it's crazy that they remained high in the UK. That's got to be uncomfortable, man. Sensei, I have a Discord and have Cryptonaires, but can't see much over there in your community. Am I missing anything? You got to verify. If you haven't gone through the process and verify, Taurus is my community manager. He's in the chat right there. He'll be able to kind of tell you what you need to do, but you should see at least a general chat where you can like hang out and talk. There is some more information behind a $25 paywall. But we're still kind of building that out. We're bringing in some content creators to make additional content for the community, as well as some partners right now. So kind of why we're doing all of that, it is free to join. And so you should see something once you click to verify the rules and stuff like that. But definitely love to see in their Game of Cats. Bro, Crypto Prince, I know you live in Hawaii. You drive a moped. Dude, you cannot be driving out here. Did you guys see this? Hold on. Let me see if you can see it. It's really bad. I mean, it's calmed down a little bit. But it's been coming down hard. Like you thought like the building was going to come down. I mean, it's not as bad. But you can see how quick the streaks are going down the window. It's coming down hot. Yeah, I suck at Discord too. All good. Cass is here. Yeah, Cass is my editor. You guys can say what's up to Cass. This is who edits all the long form videos. Every long form video you see on YouTube, that's Cass. Let's see here. Boss Kong says they'll be all right. Y'all do realize countries were completely ruined after World War II and they build it back. Don't worry, it'll help your crypto out. I mean, if that's what we're trying to do, man, like total destruction and then having to rebuild, but didn't that take decades? I mean, I don't know, man. I don't want to be like 60 and then things are finally rebuilt. Like that's going to be a lot of hard times to go through, right? Like I don't know if everybody wants to sign up for that. I mean, I know some people are like, hey, F it. I personally am not super thrilled about higher food prices, higher gas prices. I mean, it's gonna really be tough on farmers, right? Like if you're not seeing some of this information, let me show you this. Here, take a look at this. This is the hard part. U.S. farms are disappearing at an alarming rate. The number of U.S. farms fell 15,000 year over year to 1.87 million, to the lowest level since the 1850s. This is the U.S. farming market. This marks the third annual decline and the sixth over the last 7 years. Over this period, the number of farms has dropped 158,000 to negative 8%. At the same time, total farmland has fallen 24.9 million acres to 874 million, the lowest since the 1910s. Meanwhile, farm bankruptcy filing surged 36% year over year to 293 the first in months. And so this is going to be even worse now that you're having now a fertilizer crisis and a problem with that. So you can imagine this is going to impact farmers even harder, and that's going to be really tough. You also have some pretty record-breaking stuff here. A record-breaking 104 million Americans are now outside the labor force. These individuals who are either employed nor are looking for work, including retirees, students, stay-at-home parents, and discouraged workers. There's also cryptosenseis here too, right? This exceeds 2020 pandemic by 600,000 when nearly an entire economy was shut down. So is that right? That can't be right. A record-breaking 104 million Americans are now on the outside of the labor force. These individuals who are they're not either employed nor they're looking for work, including retirees, students, and stay-at-home parents or discouraged workers. This exceeds the 2020 pandemic. There's less people working right now than the 2020 pandemic in the United States. No, that can't be right. Is that right? That's a shock. Like when I read that originally, I guess I did not read that originally. Is this accurate on jobs numbers? Hold on. I need to just double down on this for a second here and just better understand this, because that's an alarming fact. Short answer, the 104 million outside the labor force part is basically right, but several of the surrounding claims in the graphic are misleading or off. Well, that's helpful. The latest BLS household survey shows about 104.6 million people not in the labor force. So that is actually a real number. That includes retirees, students, stay-at-home parents, disabled people, and discouraged workers, which screenshot partially says during the initial COVID shock, 2020, not the labor force numbers were around 103 to 104 million. So today's level is slightly above. So it is actually correct. Saying this exceeds the peak by 600,000 that is what is a little bit questionable. Wow. Just people at home playing video games, retired, they just watching Murder, She Wrote reruns or something. I don't know, man. That is a crazy number. I'm learning stuff all day long here. And you'd imagine that it'll get worse with AI, right? We've seen the numbers on AI replacing, blue collar workers. I did a video earlier today on AI agents. I don't know if I still have that video, but I had I think Cass put that video out already. I think I closed that window. Hold on. Yeah, I don't think I have it. I mean, I'm going through so much news every day. It's hard to keep it all together, Anyways, that's a lot of people not working. Pretty rough. Stay off social media. It's stressing you out. Yeah, I can't stay off social media, unfortunately. I think it's like X, man. X is a hard place to be on all day long. Like it's not great. You have information overload and aren't processing it in a healthy way. A sign when you're only reading negative news when one aspect falls. Fair enough, boss. Thank you for enlightening me with that. And you're probably right. I'm looking for good news headlines. If you have any good news to report, let me know. Love to better understand what that could be. Yeah, it's people don't want to work right now, which is not great. I'd imagine it's a little bit of both, right? Game of Cats. We have 1 million teenagers that don't work. Is that here in the US or is that's gotta be some other country, right, Stuart? Stuart, or where are you from? XRP is looking pretty good, man. That is good news. Rusty is still alive. Like, that is the best news. Let me ask you guys, because, you guys all live interesting lives and you guys are doing all your fair share of content and you guys are watching stuff. What is the best piece of news that you guys have heard this week? You guys got something for me? Best piece of news. Could be about the economy, could be about whatever. Loving that. Yeah, OSOK is working as a professional YouTube moderator. I love that. April should be good for crypto. Fingers crossed. I am seeing a lot of people talking about bullish March and April. I hope they're right, man. Boss, where are you from? New York, bro. I would imagine it's like, I would say the state. Oh, Centaura webinar, hosting AI webinar on the 25th. Is that good news? Yes, I did see that. I did a video on that the other day, actually. I did do a video on that. Oh, did you guys see the interview I did with Jesus from Firelight? That was a good interview. That was a lot of fun. Oh, Stuart's in the UK. That makes sense because I was like 1 million teenagers. We got a lot more than that just hanging out. Big Kahuna, good to see you, man. All Arab countries are aligned with the US versus Iran. That's great. I mean, I'd imagine they are once they're kind of getting drones flown into buildings. You kind of have to, right? You know, that's. I saw that the property value in Dubai dropped like 30% in a week or something, right? Because everyone's kind of panicking and trying to get out of there. I saw their real estate market is in trouble. And like people show videos of just kind of how dead it is over there. And so you're wondering like, what's the long-term impact of that? Sports news wasn't who didn't the guy score like 83 points in an NBA game like last week or something? I saw that. I don't know when it was, but that was really cool. Yeah, my good news is perhaps it'll be better when this all settles. Yeah, that's tough, man. You know, if I saw a bunch of good news, you know, I'd bring it to you guys. I liked seeing Australia offer the women Iranian soccer players amnesty. It's nice to see humans being humans. Yeah, we need more of that, man. We definitely need more of that. We definitely need more of that. All right, I have a few other things I want to show you guys. Kathy Wood is talking about the stock market here. Here you go.
And today there's extreme fear, and there are some reasons, understand that, but I believe, and this is going to fit into what Tom just said, I believe the market, when we look back, maybe at the end of this year, is going to be characterized as climbing a wall of worry. And of course, now with the war, there is another reason. There are another few bricks being put into that wall. This is a really good time to pick up on stocks that might be more volatile.
All right, guys, listen, there's a brand new clip of David Sachs. I just saw this on Twitter. I want to show it to you. I have not seen it, so bear with me. I have no idea what's in this clip. It says David Sachs says the risks of continued escalation in Iran could be catastrophic. This is the AI and crypto czar in America.
Look, we've degraded Iranian capabilities massively. Their army, navy, air force all been destroyed. This is a good time to declare victory and get out. And that is clearly what the markets would like to see. You are seeing, however, a faction of people, I'd say largely, but not exclusively in the Republican Party, who want to escalate the war and who are calling for things like ground troops or regime change, or they simply want the pounding of Iran to just keep going on and on. I saw an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal to that effect, that we shouldn't try and find an off-ramp. We should just keep going with this. And I just want to lay out, I think, some of the risks of what an escalatory approach could entail. So first of all, we're all seeing that the Straits of Hormuz are closed right now. We don't want that to persist longer than it has to. But there are actually worse outcomes than that. So if the Iranians get hit, if their oil and gas infrastructure gets hit, they've already said they're going to engage in tit-for-tat retaliation against the Gulf states. And we saw there was recently, the Iranians blew up this giant oil depot in Oman. Mm-hmm. You saw some of those images. They could continue to target the oil and gas infrastructure across the Gulf states.
I showed you guys this in a video. I think it was yesterday. They flew one drone in and it blew up and then set everything on fire.
And if that happens, it won't really matter if the straits get reopened, because you won't be able to restart oil and gas production in the Middle East. So that would be, I think, a much worse outcome that could result from escalation. Furthermore, there's an even worse, I think, scenario from there, which is the region is very dependent on desalination plants. I think something like 70% of Riyadh gets their water from desalination. I think it's something like 100 million people on the Arabian Peninsula that get their water from desal. I mean, it's basically a desert, right? And those desal plants are soft targets. You already saw I think there was one desal plant in Iran that got hit, and then it caused Iran again, tit for tat, to hit a desal plant. I think it was in Kuwait. I could be off about that. But in any event, if you see that type of destruction continue, you could literally render the Gulf almost uninhabitable. I mean, you're just not going to have enough water for 100 million people, and human beings just cannot survive very long without water. So that would be a truly catastrophic scenario. And we're talking about destroying the Gulf states economically and then also from a humanitarian perspective. So I think we have to take things like this into account when you hear people preaching for or advocating for escalation. You also have to, I think, consider the impacts on Israel. I mean, it's hard to know exactly how much damage Israel is taking right now. There's a social media blackout. But what you're starting to hear trickle out is that Israel is getting hit harder than they've ever been hit before in their history. And we're only 2 weeks into this. If this war continues for weeks or months, then Israel could just be destroyed, or very large parts of it. Now, I think Israel is a harder target than the Gulf states. Their infrastructure is more hardened. Also, they're further away. The Gulf states are vulnerable to drones and short-range missiles, whereas Israel is mainly vulnerable to long-range missiles. Nonetheless, at some point, their air defenses could become exhausted if it hasn't happened already, and Israel could get seriously destroyed. And then you have to worry about Israel escalating the war by contemplating using a nuclear weapon, which would truly be catastrophic. So there's a lot of scenarios here, a lot of really frightening scenarios about where escalation could lead. And even though the United States is a much more powerful country than Iran, they essentially have a dead man's switch over the economic fate of the Gulf states, and even potentially beyond that, the habitability of some of these countries. So I do tend to think that this is a good time to declare victory. I think, Brad, you're right that the president has never said that democracy promotion is one of his objectives. Yes, JCal, obviously everyone would welcome if the people rose up and chose a new regime, but that's not something that we've said we have to accomplish. And this would be a really good time to take stock of where we are and try, I think, to seek an off-ramp. And look, if escalation doesn't lead anywhere good, then you have to think about, well, how do you de-escalate? And de-escalation, I think, involves reaching some sort of ceasefire agreement or some sort of negotiated settlement with Iran. And we can get into more of what that looks like. But I think that's the big picture, is that if escalation could lead in all these horrifying directions, and I think that's not the right approach. You have to look at de-escalation.
You know what, the off-ramp, Iran's already said what they'll accept. They want reparations for all the stuff the U.S. has bombed and Israel's bombed. And since the U.S. has bombed 5,500 plus targets, and that was a few days ago, you can imagine this figure is probably going to be tens of billions of dollars, if not larger. So, wow. I think a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about here, having this conversation, in the videos I've made this week and late last week, and kind of what we talked about in the stream already, kind of hit home, and what the David Sachs is saying there. The hard part is how do you stop? The hard part is how do you stop? You're gonna have to pay them, right? Or why would they stop? Like, why would Iran stop if you're not going to pay them, right? You've done all this. So, sending in Marines is just not a wise move. Declare victory and be over. Timeless. I think everybody, 90% of people agree with what you're saying here. 100%. Absolutely. I think, the IRGC is a massive force, and they have weapons and they have communication. They have everything that the people don't. And, it does feel like if there was a time maybe it'd be now, but like very, very, very difficult to say, man, when you're not over there kind of in, seeing it in person is you're not dealing with it in real life, right? You're just kind of seeing it through a screen. And I think we kind of, it's easy for us to say this is what they should or shouldn't do. But when people are being gunned down in the street right in front of you, I think that's, it's a harder decision to make, I would imagine. You know what? Let's keep searching. That was I didn't really know I was going to get when I played this, and I think that was well spoken and needed to be said. New startups rent a human allows AI agents to rent humans to perform tasks they cannot physically perform themselves. Are you kidding me? That is a great idea, but don't we have this stuff already? Oh my God, there's going to be new millionaires and billionaires. This is pretty interesting. Renthuman.ai. Wow. Okie dokie. That's so crazy, man. Yep. Iran strikes 5 U.S. Air Force refueling planes at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia 1 hour ago. Five U.S. Air Force refueling planes combined worth of 300 million were bombed and damaged. Yikes. Seven tankers in 2 days. Huh. That's a crazy one. Rent a human won't last long. They're gonna be robots soon. I know, I was listening to some, I when I go walk Luna, I try to kind of disconnect from crypto and I kind of like dig into other things like AI and just to try to listen and to understand. It does like there was one person, I can't remember if it was like the godfather of AI, but it was one of these people that behind AI, and they said something like, if you can choose between hiring a person, right, or paying $20,000 for a robot, right, the person can only work 8 or 10 hours, then has to sleep, needs vacation, needs sick time, needs time when whatever. And you basically within 6 months or whatever of that person working, making minimum wage, could replace that person entirely. And so you're going to see that more and more, I'd imagine. It's gonna start to kind of speed that flywheel up. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Stuart. Appreciate that. Luna was so stressed out last night. She did not sleep. I didn't sleep. The wind was hitting the window, and she would panic, and then when she gets scared, she jumps. She actually jumps on my wife, which is kind of funny. I spent all day with her, and like she prefers, like when I go out of the room, she kind of looks for me, and she kind of panics when she can't find me. But like when it comes to safety, she jumps right on Thaisa. It's so funny. We spent most of the night in the closet last night, and it's rough. There was a homeless person that pulled the fire alarm actually last night in our building. I don't know what was going on there. Elon Optimus will take care of the elderly at some point. I think that's the goal, right? More robots than people, I think he said. X Money, XMN, XRP, XLM, HBAR getting ready. I don't know, man. X Money is going to be an interesting. I mean, we know it's built on Visa Direct. We know that there's a partnership with Visa, Solana, and USDC. We know that the bank accounts, it does, I don't know if all the bank accounts, but it sounds like a majority of the bank accounts will be on Cross River Bank, and Cross River Bank can use Ripple's infrastructure. It doesn't use it for everything it does, but there are corridors that it does use Ripple and XRP for. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think people just assume it's XRP, but I wouldn't make that assumption. Yeah, when Lunas don't sleep, we don't sleep. Yeah, and then as she was kind of so tired that she was just gonna go to sleep. It was like 3:30 in the morning. Some crazy person pulled the fire alarm downstairs, and so the fire alarm went off at like 3:30, and then she went crazy, right? Because it's really loud, and everything calmed down. It takes her 30 minutes to stabilize, and then within 45 minutes of the first fire alarm, the second fire alarm went off, and so it was done, man. We were just up all night. Do ironing robots charge a flat rate? I don't know, man, but I think we're gonna find out. Santa Tom, Husky Tom is Santa Tom. I got an earpod in, and I'm about to roll my golf cart to my favorite marina bar and Stock Island. Man, Husky Tom's got a chill life. I love that. That sounds good to me, dude. Jeff, which partner are we talking about? Be more specific, and I will give you an answer, sir. Are we talking about X Money? Are we talking about MasterCard? You got to give me a little bit more information for me to answer your question. Hold on here. Oh, there was a new update on the Clarity Act. Where is that? Yes, I got it right here. Let me pull this up.
Industry has effectively lobbied to halt the crypto industry's market structure bill. They don't like the part of the Clarity Act that provides too much freedom to the crypto companies and still holds banks to much tighter regulation. Where does this stand, Congressman?
Well, in the House last July, we passed the Genius Act that created the first U.S. dollar.
Oh no, oh no, oh no. They bombed it. They did it.
Watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today. And he wasn't kidding. Moments ago,
they did
Central
it.
Command executed one of the most powerful raids in the history of the Middle East, totally obliterating every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Karg Island. For reasons of decency, the president says he's chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island, but says if Iran interferes with oil flows on the Strait of Hormuz, he'll immediately reconsider his decision.
Okay, so they didn't do it yet. They just blew up a bunch of other stuff on the island. Yikes. All right. I feel like the update that I will give you tomorrow will have some information on that in it. So that military is okay. Just don't bomb the oil infrastructure. Don't bomb the oil infrastructure. Right? Got it. Okay. That makes that, I don't know if that makes me feel better, but that's better than blowing up the oil. World Mobile Token. What is the World Mobile Token technology? World Mobile. Hold on, let's go to Lexi. Lexi's easier than Google, actually. World Mobile Token. What is World Mobile? Was it World Mobile Token technology? It sounds like a scam, but who knows? Let me see. World Mobile Token technology. World Mobile Token crypto blockchain stack behind World Mobile's decentralized network. What is World Mobile? 12th of March. World Mobile Token exists to bridge global divide. Its core mission is to connect unconnected by leveraging a decentralized network model. Oh, yikes. 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 Oh, they've got Earth nodes, staking Earth nodes for block production, rev sharing. I would be careful on this. It's a real project with live telecom operations and audits behind it, but it's still high risk, early stage crypto deep in play, not a safe bet. They have secured licensed spectrum US parts of California, New Mexico. I mean, that's good. You know, any type of these deep in plays, you just got to be real careful, man, because they don't play out as fast as people think they do, and people end up buying and just sitting on it for years. While when it comes to like infrastructure that you have to go out and build, that takes such a long time, right? And I can only talk about my past experiences investing in deep in projects. There's a lot of hype around it, and then they have to go do stuff, and that stuff, whether it's more licensing, more development, money raising, whatever it is, takes years, and the token plummets. It loses all value until something else happens. So just be careful. There's a lot of things in crypto that probably shouldn't even be in crypto, right? But they go to crypto because there's liquidity, and sometimes it's an easy kind of money grab. But just need to be careful in that. Duchess says, I was hoping 2026 was going to be a better year. That's what that's what I get for hoping. The only thing good about 2026, another year with my husband. Other than that, I don't think 2026 turned out good. Yeah, I hear that. I am with you on that. And I feel like maybe we should go to dinner sometime. Like I could bring Thaisa and I can meet you two since you guys are always here. I think that could be fun. Gas is $10 in the Netherlands a gallon. What stocks are being bought on the crypto market? I can't find any defense stocks on crypto. Mike, I have no idea, bud. I know that, like, you know what? Let me try to get you an answer, bud. Let me try to get you an answer. Are there any tokenized, what was it? Tokenized defense. Defense is the word I was looking for. Defense stocks on blockchain already. If so, where can I find them? All right. Yes, there are tokenized defense stocks, regulated token equities, or synthetic style products, specific platforms, free for all DeFi memes, MEXC and Ondo Finance. I would say look at Ondo Finance. It looks like MEXC has Lockheed Martin, RTX, BAE Systems. That's interesting. I didn't realize that MEXC had the ability to do tokenized energy stocks. I hope that's helpful, man. Try to get your question answered. Yeah, Tar says it right here. People don't realize how long of a long haul it's going to be getting in initially. I also think there's a lot of these deep in and World War A companies milk it as they go. Some of the timelines for competition are crazy. Also, too, when they sell nodes, like I can tell you that I've made a lot of money on node projects. I've also lost a lot of money on node projects, right? And it really depends on, when you get in. Like if you would have bought Gala nodes when they first came out, right? You bought them like $100, right? You made a ton of money. But, now they're $100,000 and I have 8 Gala nodes, 9 Gala nodes. I can't even remember. I haven't even checked it because it's worthless. I bought them mostly at around like $1,500, $1,200. I bought a few when they were a little higher. But those did really well for a few years. But now it's pretty much made their token useless, right? Because people are constantly selling. And you just have to watch out with projects that have a lot of node sales because they just destroy the token very quickly. And depending on the tokenomics, sometimes you're paying all this money up front for a node and you can't even get rewards for 6 months or 3 months or whatever the time is. So you just got to be very, very careful. Yeah, XRP, XLM, HBAR, I think those are great choices. Canton, obviously. Yep. Cat Boss says XRP, XLM, HBAR, and Canton are the way to go. I think that says it all right there. You know, you obviously could pepper in some Chainlink here. You could pepper in, people talk about Sui, people talk about Ondo. I mean, there's some other good ones, but like, that's a pretty good sentence right there. Ondo and Hyperliquid. Yep. Hyperliquid. Man, investing in Hyperliquid early would have probably been the play. It went up so quickly. Hey, Sensei, if you had to spare 100K and start of next month, what would you put it into? If I had a fresh 100 grand, and it would depend like how long I'm looking for. Like, is this something that is I'm just gonna say like what I would just do with it, not putting a timeline on it. You probably would separate it like realistically. If you wanted to kind of balance out, you probably should have a little Bitcoin and Ethereum in there just to balance it out. But if you just wanted to go all in on utility tokens, you would go XRP, you go HBAR, you would go Canton, you throw some XLM in there, and maybe some Chainlink. If you're just, because what happens if you buy too many random things, like if you buy like 10 or 20 things, it really kind of dilutes what you're trying to do. So if you can keep it like to like 3 or 5 assets, probably realistically a better situation. It's easier to manage. I can just tell you from my past experiences what I found difficult. And when I was brand new into crypto, when I got in, end of 2019, I was still learning. I didn't really buy anything. 2020 came around. 2021, I thought it was cool to own, 100 and something tokens, right? Like I thought I was awesome. And you can't manage it. It's a completely unmanageable. And you probably are at work, you have a family, you're doing stuff with your time. You cannot be paying attention to too many things. And so that's why I always kind of say keep it narrow. I know that a lot of people talk about SUI and AI agents, but realistically, HBAR, XRP, Canton, XLM, that's probably a very good, strong 4 tokens. And then, Flare is pretty cheap right now. And if you believe in XRP and if you believe in what Flare is doing, maybe that would round out my top 5. And then if you really wanted to sprinkle in something additional, you could throw in like Ondo, you could throw in Chainlink, you could throw in Avalanche, Ethereum, yeah. Let me see. Did I miss anything? Hold on. Let's see here. I don't care about BNB personally. Whatever. Solana is probably a great choice. Yeah, like Solana. The harder part is Solana $88, might not be as a good a deal as HBAR, at 9 cents. HBAR's market cap is 4 billion, which means if it goes to 40 billion, right? That's a 10x. It goes to 100 billion. You're looking at a 20 to 22x. To get a 20x out of Solana, you need to go to $1 trillion market cap. So, you just need a lot more money to flow into it. Obviously, you want to go where the money is. You want to look at, the reason we talk about Hedera, we talk about XRP, we talk about XLM. They have, XLM is going to start having ETFs. Those are going to be very important to get institutional money into these assets. Chainlink, being able to connect legacy systems and update data across blockchains, legacy systems, Chainlink is vital. It's key. I know a lot of people that play in the derivatives market, like Hyperliquid. That's probably something you can be long on. But yeah, I don't care for Tron. Canton is like the sleeper. That's like the insider token. XLM, of course. I don't care for World Liberty. Well, it's a stable coin anyways. You have Litecoin, Avalanche, definitely. HBAR, Sui. Yeah. People like BitTensor too, long on BitTensor. Look at RLUSD here at 45. Love to see that. People talk about Ondo here, tokenized securities. They're going to be big. A lot of people like Algorand. Quant's good. Quant, if it had a bigger community, it would be killing it. Look at this Quant at 780 million, with this low supply. I mean, one day that's going to explode. Layer 0 is really good for interoperability. Of course, if you believe in the virtuals ecosystem, that's now dipped way down. I mean, this thing was like dollars before. I think we're getting lost in the weeds though on this. 440. I hope that helps, man. Recon, what's up, dude? Great to see you, my man. Oh, I am way behind on messages. I do apologize. Yeah, I'm not a ZBET guy. Not for me. Not for me. I like the hard part for me is like if I woke up and I looked under my bed and all of a sudden there was $10,000 under my bed that I just forgot was there, ZBIC would be probably like 80th in place of what I would buy, right? Like you first would go to HBAR or Flare or XRP, right? Or XLM or Chain, like all the stuff I just mentioned would be way before I get to ZBIC. Has ZBIC had some updates? People have been quiet about ZBIC recently. I just haven't seen anything. I don't follow it, but I usually see when people posting and talking about stuff. Haven't seen too many people talking about ZBIC. So, hey Sensei, are there any AI-based cryptocurrencies you like? BitTensor. If you like some of that stuff that's happening on a virtuals ecosystem, that's pretty much all AI stuff. If you think that's going to be big, I mean, obviously, Sui, they're building a lot of AI agents on Sui. They're building a lot of AI agents on the, Ripple is positioning the XRP ledger to be taking advantage of AI agents. See here. Let's look at top AI coins together here. Let's see here. AI and big data. Yeah, BitTensor, probably the most popular, well-known. A lot of people talk about Near, ICP. I just, it's not my cup of tea. Render, I mean, that's been around for years. Filecoin really doesn't do it for me. Virtuals, of course. Man, this is something that you have not heard from in a long time. Remember when these three top AI companies came together to form this artificial superintelligence alliance? FET, remember this? And just fell off a cliff, man. 2024, $3. It is at 17 cents. Ouch. Ouch. You just gotta be very careful with some of these, man. I'll tell you here. So the crypto space is filled with companies who want your money. But it is not filled with technology that's going to be adopted at scale. Right? A lot of the companies you see right now in the crypto space are not going to be here in 3 years or 5 years or whatever. Right? I think being in the crypto space, let's just say since 2020-ish, I have seen tens of thousands of projects gone, all with ideas, all with plans to be the next big thing in crypto, and they're just dust. And you got to be careful not to let people pull you into their narratives or their FOMO. We are kind of running out of time here, whatever that time period is, whether it's weeks, months, right? I don't know, but there is going to come a point where regulation does get passed in the United States, and there is going to be trillions that flow into the crypto space, and that's going to flow into projects that have real utility. It's not going to flow into the random, 1 million market cap token that doesn't really do anything or doesn't have any real partners, right? And so just don't get sucked into it. Stick with the best stuff if you can. And, long term, the best stuff is always going to win, in my personal opinion. Luna does need a vacation. I need a vacation. I've been waking up at like 4:45, 5-ish, almost every day for the past, I don't know, few months. There's just so much to like get up and learn and do and like put it all together. And I'm looking forward to taking some time and just resting. Yep. So XRP, Ondo, HBAR, Axelar. I haven't heard too many people talk about SHIB, Pepe, or Doge. I think if out of all of those, Doge, you hope Elon has some kind of connection with X money. But I don't really hear too many people talking about SHIB anymore. Let's see here. Noah Sark says, "Hey Sensei, thank you for all the dates on XRP. What do you think of World Liberty Financial?" It's not my cup of tea, man. Not my thing. Not my thing. Yeah. That's like a trap. There's a hole in the floor, and there's something like covering the hole so you can't see it, and then you step on it, and then you fall through, and then you're just stuck for the rest of your life. The World Liberty, you just got to be careful, man. The hard part for me on World Liberty is, would that company be as successful if not for being connected to the president's family? Okay. And what happens to that company once Trump's out of office, right? And you don't have those connections anymore, right? Because let's be honest, when you're getting billions of dollars from like CZ, to build your stable coin, would you have gotten that money or that investment if you weren't who you were? So, it's just not something that is for me. Like I said, there's just a lot of other things that I would buy. It'll probably be successful as long as Trump's in office. But who knows? I think there's a lot of things that have happened in the past that make me question if putting money into something like that is a smart thing for me. I'm just going to stay away from that completely. All right. Anyone like DAG? It's been a while, man. It's been a while since people talked about DAG. They have a very vibrant team and some community. Just haven't seen many people talking about them online. And maybe my feed is just so used to, XRP and these other things, but I don't see anyone like talk. Like, you're the first person to ask about DAG in what? 6 months, 8 months. This has been very quiet, very, very quiet. Let's see. There's a donation here somewhere. I'm trying to find it. For some calming supplements for Luna. I appreciate that. Yeah, we have some CBD and stuff like that. We should have given it to her last night, and that was our fault. But I really appreciate it. Oh, it's okay. Thank you, man. And I hope you're doing well. Very nice of you. Yeah, not my cups of tea, man. I think anybody that has been in my streams and they come in here, they know what my answer is going to be for both those tokens. But I wish you the best, man. Like I like to see people win, And I think it's just my own bias on world liberty that I just not gonna no. No. You know what, and now I'm stepping into the trap. You know what frustrated me about this with world liberty? What was it? Justin's son was one of the largest investors into world liberty. And I don't know what it is. Maybe he just likes them. But remember, this was like, I don't know, was this like 6 months ago? That Justin's son had moved some world liberty tokens onto an exchange, right? Like he was going to sell them. And they blacklisted his wallets. I don't remember how much was blacklisted. Hold on. Let me see. Let me see here. When Justin's son got blacklisted from World Liberty Financial and his tokens are worthless. How much money was that? How in dollars? I thought it was like $100 million or something, but I could be wrong. Let me look. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, World initially blacklisted sons from holding 595 million. Was worth $107 million at the time. Later reports show that World Liberty fell in price. The value of his still locked allocation dropped by $60 million from roughly 134 million. So yeah, they cut him $100 million haircut. That's why, like, I don't know, man. It's just something like, you talk about being, delisted. What is it? What is it? They talk about being debanked, right? We built this so nobody would be debanked. And then they turn around and they debanked like their largest investor. I don't know. It's just not something that I am prepared to, not for me, bro. Yeah, debanked. Thank you. Oh, I did have that update on the Clarity Act. Let me put that up here. I got distracted when I saw that news about Trump, and I got a little worried that they did blow up the oil infrastructure. So let me restart this so we can all be reset here on this clip. There's the update on the Clarity Act.
The U.S. banking industry has effectively lobbied to halt the crypto industry's market structure bill. They don't like the part of the Clarity Act that provides too much freedom to the crypto companies and still holds banks to much tighter regulation. Where does this stand, Congressman?
Well, in the House last July, we passed the Genius Act that created the first U.S. dollar-backed payment stablecoin. And we passed the Clarity Act in the House with 78 Democratic votes. In both instances, on a bipartisan basis, we said that stablecoins should not pay yield. That it's just a payment device to be used on a blockchain.
Right.
And we also outlined in the Genius Act that both bank and non-bank issuers of a dollar-backed stablecoin would be treated the same way on sales practices, capital, supervision. So in my view, this can be resolved in the Clarity Act, and I hope soon. My recommendation is that all these issues around paying yield or connecting rewards by either a bank or a non-bank issuer should be dealt with in the regulatory proposal that Treasury has to come up with to implement the Genius Act. I think it's best resolved there, but I think it could be emphasized in the debate in the Senate's consideration of clarity, where they lay that out in statute, that we want equal treatment between bank and non-bank issuers of stable coins and how the sales practices are used by both sides. I think we can find a way to do that.
JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, who was reportedly pretty annoyed and didn't like the Clarity Act because he said, how is this fair that we banks have to be held to such tight regulations? And then, you've got the crypto companies that get the same opportunities, but they don't have to be regulated. He says there's an opportunity for compromise. And I'm wondering if you agree. He said rewards on stablecoin transactions would be something that would mark a compromise versus just idle yield being handed out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, in my judgment, that could be handled through the rulemaking that's being considered by the U.S. Treasury Department to implement the Genius Act. But in the Senate's consideration of clarity, they could outline that in statute. And I think that's, that's headed in the right direction towards a compromise. Because my view, on a bicameral, bipartisan basis for several years now, and certainly the last several months, we've said that all issuers should be treated the same way. So you don't want to have an imbalance between people using a dollar-backed stablecoin on their platform if they're a bank versus a non-bank, in my view.
All right, there you go. I don't know if we got any value from that update, but there's the update. They're just trying to do everything that they can. I don't know if you guys saw the video I made. I think it was yesterday it came out. It was about the American Bankers Association and the things that they are saying. Like pretty shady stuff there. I don't know. I saw something that Crypto Eerie posted earlier today. I'm still looking at it. It was kind of an update on that. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Let's see here. Did I save it? It's probably in the Discord. If not, no. Here, hold on. Let me grab it out of the Discord. Where are you? Could have sworn I posted it this morning when I was up early. Hold on. You know what? I know how to find it. Why can't I find her? There she is. Hold on. She had posted something. Here it is. All right. Sunscreen. Okay. So the question is, how's the end carry trade? So this is what Crypto Eerie posted earlier today. Okay, I'll zoom in because I'm tired. My eyes are strained a bit. It says, I'm absolutely thrilled, I must say, about the weakening of the Japanese yen. Here's a deeper understanding of the weakening yen, which is missed by some American-born hobby theorists. I think this is a shot at your boy, who don't closely follow the domestic narrative. Mr. Yoshi Takahashi, born 1955, a prominent Japanese economist, quantitative policy analyst, and former Ministry of Finance bureaucrat, known for his expertise in macroeconomics and fiscal policy, a professor at Kyushu University and former cabinet advisor, has been an influential advocate for structural reforms and Abenomics. This word, indaka, is the reverse yen depreciation against currencies like the US dollar. He views its positivity for Japan's overall economy and national interests in several concrete ways, even though a weak currency is often criticized globally or domestically for hurting purchasing power. Here's a breakdown of his comments. A weaker yen makes Japanese goods and services cheaper for buyers in other countries, especially Asian neighbors like China, South Korea, or other competing exports. This can boost Japan's export competitiveness, potentially taking market share from those neighbors. Their own exports become relatively more expensive, which can slow their economies or pressure their currencies and incomes downward. Hence, impoverishment is a competitive sense. Takahashi sees this as a relatively advantage for Japan in the global trade rivalries. Exports grow, GDP rises, and tax revenue increases. This is classic textbook benefit from currency depreciation for an export-oriented economy like Japan. Think Toyota, Sony, machinery, electronics. Japanese products become cheaper abroad. Higher demand increase export volumes and values in yen terms. Exporters earn more yen when converting foreign earnings back home. Corporate profits rise. Higher corporate profits and economic activity equals GDP growth and nominal GDP, especially it benefits. The governments collect more taxes, corporate taxes, income taxes, and higher wages, profits, and consumption taxes from increased activity. In models often cited, a 10% yen weakening could add roughly 0.4 to 1.2% on Japan's growth rate, depending on conditions. Dollar-denominated foreign exchange special account yields, high profits. This refers to Japan's foreign exchange fund special account. The Japanese government of finance and Bank of Japan holds massive foreign reserves, mostly US dollar assets like treasuries, to intervene in forex markets or manage currency stability. When the yen weakens significantly, the yen value of those dollar-denominated assets surge. The example here is 1 billion in reserves becomes worth more in yen. This creates huge unrealized gains and sometimes realized profits when managed. The account balance swells or brims over, as recent politicians like PM Sensei Takashi have noted in similar contexts. These profits can indirectly support government finances, transferred to general accounts, or used for interventions. In short, Takahashi is thrilled because he sees the weak yen as a powerful macroeconomic tool, revives export-led growth after years of yen strength or stagnation, boosts national income, corporate strength, and government coffers, and gives Japan a competitive edge. Now, there's some people in the comments that didn't agree with this. I just want to point that out. There were some people who kind of pushed back, but you asked for an update. That's the update I have there. I know that there's a narrative that is shared by a content creator that, if all of these things happen, XRP's price goes to, a lot of money. I don't know if that's going to play out. I would love to see XRP at a higher price. But you know what though? Part of the theory of this person, right? And we're just going to Voldemort this, right? We're not going to say the person's name. Oil prices are skyrocketing, right? And this was the kickoff thing that this person's theory needed for XRP to get where it needs to go. So, let's see how it plays out. The great thing about life is if you live long enough, you get to see how it plays out. And, I think a lot of people are rooting for this to be a positive outcome. I'm more on the fence here of waiting to see how it plays out, because I can tell you that I've been in the crypto space for a while, and everybody says this is exactly what's going to happen, or this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen. And it usually doesn't work out like people think or hope, right? Like I've even thought this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and then it goes a different way, right? And so I've learned to kind of just sit back and observe at this point, and we'll see who is right or who is wrong in the long run. Let's see here. Aloha Sensei. Someone said that 1,000 XRP is useless now, and that 100,000 tokens is the minimum needed for true financial freedom. Who is saying that? Obviously, if you own more of something, it's easier to be financially free. But every person, when you ask them, what is it going to take for you to be financially free, is going to give you a different answer depending on where they live, how much money that they spend, and what their costs of living are. So I don't know where you live or what the costs are in your world. Like, how high does XRP need to go for, if you have 1,000 XRP, for you to do all of those things, right? Then you got to figure out, hey, can I make this work with this, right? I have no idea, man. Yeah, it is getting a little bit late here. We'll be on for an hour. You guys just know who I'm talking about, huh? You guys are just like I'm really hoping. I mean, he's really hoping too, right? You gotta imagine if it doesn't play out, all of these things that you've been telling people, like I there's only so many chances people get in the crypto space, right? With your reputation, and like I can see that like after, New Year's and things like that, that you can definitely tell that there's a different kind of vibe around some of the stuff that he says. And there was a lot more trust, I feel, last year with some of the things. And, I know this too, right? Like it's really hard to break somebody's trust and then gain it back. Right. And you only get so many chances. And we'll see. We'll see. I'll keep my fingers crossed for him. Big Kahuna. I bought some H bar. I bought $2,000 of H bar in the last week. Yeah, I know. You're like, man, it's just so nice when you can put $1,000 in, you get over 10,000 tokens, and you can build a nice bag of a few 100,000 H bar pretty quickly, right? If you have the money to put into it. Obviously, if you have more, you could buy, a few million, but not a lot of people have that capital laying around. Yeah, I mean, like all of the things that he needs to be successful are happening, right? So now's the time, I think. And not to spend too much time on this, but I'd imagine there's some people here that have been in his live streams recently. What's the conversation like? Does anybody have an update on, how long this is supposed to take? Right? What's your first? Is it XRP? Your second biggest holding? Maybe it's Canton. Didn't I see you buy some Canton Network? I went to the first London H bar meetup, and they were morons. I think when anybody is trying to launch an event, it is not as easy as people would believe it is, right? There's a lot that goes into being and having a successful event. I don't know what the event was or your experience, but people try things and sometimes it's not successful, and like I said, I don't know what you went through, whatever, but maybe the next time they do it, it'll be better. First time it's always a little shaky. Adam says, I think people need to slow down on their expectations here. He says $5 to $7 is already a 10 to 15x from 50 cents a few years ago. That's already an insane gain, and we can't really expect prices much higher at the moment. Fair point. I will apologize to Cake if it turns out he's right, just off on the timing. I think it's Jake. Love that. Does he comment on things that are going on? Like, is he excited? Is there a timeline? Is there any updates? I just don't have the time to watch his stuff. And so I was hoping that somebody could it's Husky Tom. I think that's gonna be brilliant. That's gonna be brilliant, man. Claire, what does it say? Is being super sheepish on the time frame, but still ultra bullish. Note, he has reinstated some discounts he dropped trying to get more followers. Yeah, I think other stuff leading up to last year probably hurt, right? And I'm wondering what's going on with the whole Zach thing. I hope that doesn't turn into stuff. It sounds like there was a certain amount of time that Jake had to file something against Zach, and I don't think that happened. So I think Zach's trying to, I'd imagine he's going to try to get it thrown out. So I'm rooting for those guys to work that stuff out, man. But so help me understand this, because isn't this stuff happening in Japan though? are we waiting on US regulations or Japanese regulations? Right? Because that's what I always get confused. Right? I don't know. So I'm asking. So regulation is the hard part. Chester, what's up, dude? Yes, always appreciate you, Chester. Nice to see you, bud. Yep. So you talking about Cross River Bank? Don't get too excited about that. Don't get too excited about that. You should go watch the video I just made on this. I go into the research and show you the connections. It's not exactly what you think it is. Now it could turn into something, but right now it's probably going to be Visa, Solana, and USDC. Now, Cross River does have a hub where you can use RippleNet and XRP, but I think it's between US and Europe. It's not every transaction Cross River does. Like, that's what people are completely missing here. I bet the attorney said not to give timelines. That makes sense. Sensei, tell the yellow, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with their team. We were talking with their team. We were having a discussion, and then it's been like a week since they responded to the last message. So I don't know if they're so busy that they can't like respond to certain things or what's going on. But if they ever respond to their messages, I will communicate that they need to make it easier to buy. I think the whole point is here, though, is they want to get people onto their network. They want people to use their DEX, and that's why it's hard to buy. They did that for a reason. I heard that they're trying to list on a Q exchanges, but they're trying to get that initial push. And I don't know if they're, how it's been. What is the token price? Well, let me look. Let's pull it up. Every time I think of yellow, I say black and yellow, black and yellow. $62 million. Didn't it launch at 120 or something? Ouch. K Dot, what's up? What's good, K Dot? Good to see you, man. Well, good. We'll get some more information soon. Budget, definitely. Rusty says he has stated that the Clarity Act does not need to occur first. In fact, that he thinks the price appreciation will occur prior. Actually, so it sounds like regulation doesn't have anything to do with it. So I don't know. This is why I kind of stay out of it now. Things change, too much, and like. I can't keep up with it listening to that, If we have a portfolio of XRP, HBAR, XLM, Flare, Canton, we will be golden, living large by 3 years tops. Yeah, man. I think that's a very strong statement. And that is a beautiful list of tokens there, right? That is pure success. That is pure alpha. That is pure, like the smartest probably people in crypto building right there in those companies. I mean, it's going to be crazy, man. You to bomb for calm. Keep streaming XRP, driving me nuts along with all of crypto. Do you see a bull run in the middle of a war? No. Just to recap this, guys, you have a new Fed chair coming in a month or two, right? I can't remember when the exact date is, but it's happening pretty soon. Inflation is around 2.4%. And we're right at that point where the new Fed chair was going to come in and lower rates. Like we were there. Everything that Trump wanted as far as rates concerned was about to happen, right? I mean, you were seeing unemployment rising, right? But inflation was coming down to a point where you need to inject liquidity into the economy. Beautiful, right? That would line up with their goals. Now you have unemployment rising. It's been its highest point in the last few years. And then you also have just catastrophic jobs numbers. There hasn't been a positive job created in the United States since April 2025, which was, when we kicked off all the tariff stuff. Now we can have a conversation if that was good for America or not good for America. I think we've seen that it's not good for America. That's a real problem, right? And so now that you're going to have higher gas prices, that's going to push inflation up, and you have higher unemployment. Those are the two things that the Fed is there to fight against, right? So what does the Fed do? They're a little trapped. And so if they still drop rates, even though inflation is going up, it's going to increase even faster, right? It's a real jam that we now find ourselves in. The only way that inflation doesn't go crazy here is if you get all of this, war stuff out of done, and you stop bombing infrastructure and you get the capacity back up and running pretty quickly. Snap your finger, it's back up. Now, what are the chances of that happening? Probably very slim, right? I'd say slim to none at this point, but you never know, right? We could wake up tomorrow and everyone could have a reason to stop fighting, and we could maybe find some common ground. Great. That's the problem that we're in, right? We were hoping for lower rates. Liquidity is, easier to get, right? If you can go borrow at 2%, you're probably not going to be in the bond market. You're probably going to be playing in risk assets, right? You're going to be playing the stock market. You're playing in crypto, right? We were really set up to do some pretty gangster stuff here in 2026. And that might not happen now. And that's unfortunate. And that's all because of our own mistakes and our us not planning very well, right? And not thinking about the consequences of some of these things, right? The current administration did not plan for the Strait of Hormuz to be shut down. If they did plan, they would have refilled the oil reserves, right? They would have understood, hey, we're going to need as much oil as we can. This could be shut down for a long period of time. Let's just top this off. Why oil is cheap, right? They were just talking about how cheap gas was, and that was the best time to refill it, right? And they didn't do that. So they weren't planning for this prolonged situation. And you either going to sign a peace agreement giving Iran tens of billions, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars as an apology for blowing up all their stuff, or this is going to continue, right? But they want reparations to stop. They're not just going to stop because the U.S. says it's time to stop. You've already done all of the damage, right? You've blown up their navy, you've blown up their military, you've done all these things, right? They're not going to stop now because you've already crossed that line with them. And so that is the uncomfortable spot the world finds themselves in. That's why you have France, that's why you have Italy, right? Trying to negotiate side deals. And I'd imagine other countries are going to try to do something similar. The issue there becomes if there's too many ships moving through, you're going to end up probably bombing the wrong one at some point, or somebody is. And so it's a very complicated situation with a ton of different actors on a global scale. It's not going to be simple. So to answer your question simply, are we going to have a bull market in the middle of this year? Probably not. Probably not. Inflation will start dripping into everything that you buy in the next 2 to 3 months. You'll start to see that rise, right? You're not going to see it right away. Although you are seeing gas prices up 70 cents in a few weeks, right? Yeah. I hope that was a good kind of overview of kind of where we are and what's to be expected here. Tyler, what's up? Good to see you, man. So here we go. The real reason is Powell and Trump don't get along, and Powell came out in May 2026, and Trump is going to be available to do more. But like you need like, listen, we all want to see lower rates, right? That would be healthy for the economy to see lower rates. But if you're to lower rates and print money as inflation is rising, as unemployment is rising, you're just going to make the situation a lot worse, right? A lot worse, a lot more quickly. So if you felt uncomfortable during COVID and how high inflation was at that point, that's kind of what levels that you can get back to pretty quickly if you're not too careful, right? And so it's not just the Fed chair that makes the decision, it's the Fed board, right? There's 12 people that decide. It's not the one person, right? Of course, the Fed chair does have a stronger opinion, but it's still all 12 people that do vote. So you'd have to convince all of those people that it's going to be beneficial to the country to lower rates, even though inflation is spiking and unemployment is spiking. It's going to be very difficult to do. Not saying that it can't be done. I'm just giving you the facts. But all the content that not only you, Sensei, have put out, but other influencers showing a lot of positive news and possibilities for Ripple XRP. Absolutely, man. I'm very bullish about Ripple and XRP. I wake up every day and I get to learn more about it. I don't know kind of what are we maybe talking about the price here. But XRP is still my biggest holding. I'm here every day to make content and to try to educate you guys. I don't know what we're trying to get out here though, cats. I don't know. If only it were that simple. If only that were simple. I think people have an idea that this new Fed chair is going to come in. He's just going to do whatever Trump says. Like you got to have some, you have to have some space in between. It would be really bad for markets if a president could tell the Fed what exactly to do, right? You need that independence, right? If not, why even have the Federal Reserve? Why not just, it be directly under control of the president? Like you just got to be careful. Yeah, man, black and yellow. Man, every time I get in my car, I put my Spotify playlist on random, and for some reason, black and yellow comes up, man. Summer inflation is gonna suck, man. Yeah, I mean, we're all like, I think I've laid out a good case of why that's gonna happen. And if you haven't seen the videos that I've made this week about what's going on with the Iran conflict and what to expect, you should just spend some time this weekend and watch those videos. I put out one video a day over the last 4 or 5 days that will give you a very good understanding of what we're up against. And it'll be uncomfortable. It'll be uncomfortable, guys. Jose says, we would like to know what you think, Sensei, not what other creators think. People follow you to hear your opinions. Don't make your channel about another creator. Love that. Thank you, man. I'm still 5 minutes behind on text. I'm trying to go through this right now. Hire Somali pirates to protect oil tankers? I guess. The problem is it's not just people showing up with guns and taking the tankers, right? They're drones. And so if you just have an AK-47 and you're firing it in the sky, the chances of you shooting that drone down are pretty slim. Not saying that it hasn't been done before, but it's very slim chance, right? And so these drones are pre-programmed to stay low, and then they go up and they shoot down and attack, right? And then you also have underwater sea drones that you can't even see. So even if you had pirates with man pads and the ability to shoot down drones out of the sky, how are you going to blow up drones that are in the water, right? And if you want a good example of water warfare and drones, look what Ukraine did to Russia in the Black Sea, right? They blew up dozens of ships with underwater sea drones. And that technology, I don't really know if there is a good solution for that technology, right? Mostly right now, HBAR, XRP, a little bit of Canton, some XLM. I got a handful of other stuff too. You got a little bit of Ondo in there, little chain link, little AVAX. I mean, it's nothing crazy. I do focus like the majority of money on just a few tokens because I cannot be spread too thin. It's so hard to follow 20, 30 tokens, you know. I really do narrow it down. And I have some other kind of stuff like DeFi and investments and nodes and a bunch of other like random stuff. But I'm just too tired to get into some of that stuff at this point. XRP is the heart of the financial system. It's the North Star. I know. It seemed like the wave of innovation, they're really doubling down on this North Star, verbiage. I really liked what they were doing with that. It was nice to see all of those videos. Fed's dead, baby. Very well might be. Very, very well might be. Yeah, so the time changes. The time changes in Hawaii. So right now it's 4 p.m. We don't go back, and I didn't get much sleep last night, and so I had to got out of bed, and I was just sluggish all day, and so it took me some more time to put all this stuff together. So I did come on at 2 o'clock, and now it's 4 o'clock. So I probably am going to shut down here in just a second because it's been a long day. But I did want to remind everybody, if you haven't gotten a chance to join the community Cryptonaires, it's absolutely free. We would love to have you in that community. Let me go ahead and give you the link. If you guys want to just hang out and talk story, talk crypto, there's the link. Join. There's going to be a link in the description of this video too. So if you cannot select it or click on it, come in, hang out. You know, we got a lot going on in there. We're building that up to be a better community. And it'd be nice to just hang out and talk with you guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I will keep bringing you updates. I do slow down a bit on the weekends because I do got to rest a bit. But it's always an honor to spend this time with you, to answer your questions, to go through the market, to better understand where we're going to be. I think we've been pretty spot on with stuff over the last, 6 to 12 months about where things are going. And I think we're going to be pretty spot on to where things are heading. So stay tuned with me. Like I said, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for your questions, your time. And I will see you guys. All right. I'll see you in the next one. All right. Take care, you guys. Aloha.